Hello and welcome to From Aways. Halifax played their first ever match on Sunday in a 1-0 loss away at Pacific, and we're here to give you a full match report with all our thoughts on the key events and tactics, and to try our best not to mention Marcus Haber's shit haircut. Alright then, thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Glen Merkley, and I'm joined as ever by Alex Shepard and Gary Griffiths. How are we doing?
Very good, I'm having a lovely day.
Yeah, we're done licking our wounds.
No.
Still bitter.
Still bitter.
Bitter to the last. Bitter until Saturday, let's hope.
I feel all right, actually. I'm not too... I think I touched on it in the blog. I'm just happy that I care so much. Yeah. And I've got this secondary source of pain and suffering in my life. I thought there was room in my life for some more misery, and it's arrived. So.
Oh, you?
No, I'm only joking. I'm only joking. No, I love it. Absolutely love it.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because we have a podcast. We put a lot of time in our life into this football club already, but I was caught off guard by how much I cared about it.
Yeah, same.
It sounds a bit shallow, but like I was pretty mad. Like I was in a dark mood when I got home, which is funny.
Thought, because we've obviously spent so long writing and talking about it, I thought I'd be quite disconnected from it on an emotional level once it started, but I'm not. And I love it. I love the fact that I'm not, to be honest. I said misery, but I don't mean that. I'm absolutely in love with the fact that we all care so much. It's great.
Yeah, it is great. If anything, it just made me aware of how desensitized I am to losing at this point. Yeah. It was just kind of like the first goal went in and it was like, all right, this again. I've got another team to watch this happen to.
To risk getting too far off topic, like we all have people in our lives who have no interest in football or sports, and it is utterly absurd that we even care a little bit about sports. It's just a strange thing, isn't it, why we get so worked up about it, but I wouldn't change it. I love it.
Yeah. No, I couldn't imagine my life without it.
Right, then this is a bit of a funny episode.
All gone philosophical, hasn't it?
Yeah, already, yeah. Well, funny for other reasons. You guys can't hear, obviously, but we have a camera crew in the room in the apartment with us, which is a bit funny. There's some nice gentlemen here doing a series on the Wanderers. Not sure too many details yet, but we'll put it out on the usual feeds when we know where you can find the footage and know quite how good looking we are today.
Yeah, they're doing a mini series of sorts. So they're going to do some profiles on the players, on the coaches, on the fans, on us.
On the mayor.
On the mayor. Yeah, and they're also available for weddings, I believe, as well. If you want some extra work, boys.
Okay, then. We're here to talk about soccer. Let's get down to it, I guess. Today we're going to do something a bit different. We're going to run through a timeline of the match and sort of the key events as they came up, and then I guess we'll dwell on it afterwards and give our general thoughts. I guess starting from minute zero, rather, with the opening lineups. There's a few surprises there from both sides, we thought. Out of the two matches this weekend, I think we got the Wanderers lineup the least correct out of the other three clubs for a few reasons.
Kind of. Once we knew about the injuries, we were a bit closer.
Yeah, you could kind of fill it in.
Yeah, I was sweating a little bit about the injuries on the day of, because we received a message that led us to believe that maybe we were off the mark, and I didn't really relax until we were in line to get into the bar, and Shaqib Hossein was in line behind us to watch the game.
We should say about that, actually. So we went to Niche, just like probably most of the people listening to this did, and as we were waiting in line to get in, I looked behind me and there's a big lad just towering over me, and it's Shaqib Hossein, and Scott Firth was there, and I think Scott's mum, and Aziz was there as well. But they had to queue up as well, didn't they? They were waiting
for significantly shorter than we did. They got whisked away a little bit quicker.
I know. But VIPs, aren't they?
It's a podcast. They don't know our faces. We can forgive them this time.
Yeah, should have whispered in the bouncer's ear in the usual dulcet tone. Me.
I'm from Aways, mate.
Okay, so lineups. I've seen a couple shapes gone around. I'm not quite sure what to call it myself. I think Wanderers is probably 4-5-1 or 4-2-3-1.
More of a 4-1-3. No,
some variation
4-1-4-1.
If 4-5-1 or 4-1-4-1 is what I go with. But this is all very pedantic, right? It's going to move and change throughout the game. But so do you want to walk us through the lineup there?
Yeah, sure. So Jan Michael Williams in goal, of course. He's fit to start. Peter Shala and Kristinovic and Sa making up the back two, the centre backs. Zach Secunda on the right and Zoom Lengwa on the left in the fullback positions. Midfield looked like Elton John was sitting deepest of the three, with Andre Rampersad and Guti in front of him. Garcia on the right, Kuruma on the left, with Skublak up top. That's how we all saw it. I guess again, it's flexible through the match, but
that's definitely how it started off. And yeah, I guess there were some surprises there. I think the only reason that I didn't think that Skublak was going to play up top was because he had also missed some training. I kind of thought that if he was fit, maybe he might get the nod ahead of Lammy, just being more of a physical presence and being more of the lone striker type, I think. I think we were all a little bit surprised to see that, considering that he had missed some training as well. And the other surprise, I guess, was probably Chris Nolan saw at centre back, when we had thought maybe it might be Andre Bona, but it was always kind of a toss up for those two who was going to replace Hossein, I think.
Yeah, they started using Nsar in a lot of graphics earlier in the day, and I thought then maybe he was going to start. The other surprise for me, I thought Elliot Simmons would start as well.
Yeah.
But you can see the reason why he didn't, if Hart, because I think we assumed Hart would play with two holding midfielders and then one just ahead. But he kind of went the other way. He played with one holding midfielder and two just ahead. So maybe he wanted someone just a little more attacking than Elliot to play there. And that's why Andre Rampersad got the nod, because he's a slightly more attacking box-to-box figure.
Yeah, certainly. I would say that was probably the thinking behind it. Also, I know that Simmons is by no means small, but there's a bit probably more of a physical presence with Rampersad that he probably would have wanted to go for, and especially on set pieces, which I'm sure we're going to talk an awful lot about. That it was, we were definitely much smaller than Pacific, so it wouldn't have surprised me if that was part of his thinking.
Yeah, but on the whole, I mean, I think we probably predicted 80% of it, which isn't bad.
Yeah. They lined up against a really strong Pacific side, probably a full-strength Pacific side, with the exception of De Jong, of course. Village in net, with McNaughton and Strostic ahead of him in centre back, Smith and Chung as the fullbacks, Baldisimo, Verhoeven as the two central midfielders, and then the three behind the striker from left to right being Blasco, Campbell, and Fisk, with Haber ahead of that. Is that how we saw it? As a 4-2-3-1?
I thought Izzy might play, but
that was the only surprise for me. That was pretty well exactly, I think, what we saw coming, other than Izzy. We also thought that maybe Fisk might be in a more central role from the start, but as it actually turned out, and we'll talk about it, to call Fisk and Blasco wingers would be probably more, you would only be able to do that if you just looked at a lineup rather than watching the game. It was a kind of a strange setup. But yeah, that I agree with you. Outside of De Jong, that's pretty well a full strength Pacific squad. Yeah,
with Campbell performing so well in preseason, it's not a huge shock that he's displaced Izzy there. Or I guess would Izzy sit it out for another name in that?
No, it's like I am actually really curious as to what the reasoning behind that was, because it, like, Blasco, Campbell, and to an extent Fisk, Verhoeven, they've all really impressed in preseason. So it could actually be just
they're ahead of him in the back
ahead
order.
of him. Yeah. I don't think that Isse actually, he had a tough job playing as a winger after sending off, but I don't think that he did that well when he came on. So it wouldn't surprise me if that was just based on merit.
Yeah, because we considered that depth based on how well we knew the players at the end of the day, and Izzy was a lot more well known and a lot more established. So that's probably why we thought he'd play there.
I think we can say that we learned a lot about a few Pacific players that night. Yeah,
I look like a bit of a twat now, don't I? Wrote a rather nasty article about him, but there we go.
Yeah, could have been a lot worse. I was fully prepared for a Haber hat trick.
Yeah,
and make us eat our words. But anyways, could always be worse. So I guess just running through a few of the key moments in the first half. The game opened up with a really, really nervy moment on the third minute, I think it was, with a shanked clearance from Williams. He didn't really get any clearance on height on his clearance from goal, and it fell straight to a Pacific player, and we got off with one really early on.
Yeah, I think that was symptomatic of the first 5 to 10 minutes, to be honest. I think there was, I know Stephen Hart alluded to it after the game, but there was definitely a nervousness there. Players were they were getting rid of it a bit too quickly, but not in a positive way. It was almost like hot potatoes, wasn't it, for the first 10, 15 minutes? Wanderers weren't the only team doing that, by the way. Pacific were doing exactly the same. I think
totally.
all 22 players were just a little bit overawed by the occasion, and it was just very, very scrappy. I couldn't get a read on it for a long time, and I couldn't work out if that was the camera angle and the fact that the pitch seems to be shimmering a little bit because it's turf, I guess. And I just couldn't really pick the ball up a lot of the time, and it was just it was very scrappy, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. And listen, I think we're gonna see. That's not the last time we're gonna have our hearts in our mouths when we're knocking the ball around at the back this season. I'm willing to bet, like, based on the first 25 minutes of that game, that's something that I actually think that we did reasonably well. It was actually getting it through midfield that was the problem. But that was just a symptom of playing out from the back, and that's something that I think that we as fans should remain patient with, because that's the way that Hart wants to play. That's the way that this team's going to play. Yeah, I don't place blame on Williams for that. It's just a nervy start.
Yeah, and it's not going to happen overnight. It takes a while to build up that play style. But I think suffice to say, it probably surprised a lot of fans from other clubs around the country. People had Halifax Pen as a more defensive club, and especially away, you'd expect Williams to play that long. But they were bouncing around. Certainly for the first 20 minutes or so, they played really well and bounced around the back pretty competently, I thought. Alex you mentioned earlier that they evaded the Pacific press really well for the first sort of 20-25 minutes.
Yeah, I think for the first while they did a pretty good job of remaining calm, especially the back line. I would say that they did a good job of keeping the ball from Pacific's attackers, but they didn't do a particularly good job of finding their own teammates further forward, which was a bit of the issue. That, but
I remember one moment Ramprasad played a back pass that threaded through about 3 or 4 Pacific players, and you turned to me and said, like, oh, if only we could do that forward. Like, that was a gem of a pass.
Yeah, he's
straight
like
to the goalkeeper.
Broke 3 lines backwards. That's exactly what you want.
So I mean, that's my take. I thought they played pretty well for the first 20 minutes or so, and then the goal, 23rd minute, corner for Pacific, free header inside the box, and Starosnik. Staro.
How do you say his name? Can you say it, Shep?
Staroszik. Sorry.
Staroszik. But he just has Staro on the back of his shirt, so we can just go with that.
Make it easy for us.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyways, he buried the ball unopposed, I thought. I guess we all had slightly different takes on it. Gary, what was your take on the defending from that set play?
Oh, it was just inches, wasn't it? It was an inch from Peter Scharler's head, and then it was an inch from Elton John, and then it was an inch from Andre Rampersad. It was just the perfect storm for them to score, but you shouldn't really have a free header in the centre of the box. Something's gone wrong for that to happen, I think. But when you watch it back, I can't really pick out individually who made the error, really. It just kind of landed on his head, didn't it? I think it was just unlucky, to be honest.
That's the zonal system, though, right? It did look like they weren't marking man to man. I'm a fan of zonal. I know a lot of people aren't, but that's...
I'm fine with it. Statistically, it says that that's the best thing to do, so...
Yeah, it just makes it a little bit more difficult for us as pundits to, pick blame and see, who lost his man, because it's who entered what zone.
Yeah.
Sure. One thing that I definitely picked up on from it was, I think that it might have even been a communication issue as the ball came in. I thought Skublock was in a very good position to clear it, and would have cleared it had Shaw not jumped in front of him and taken his line of vision out of the way. That responsibility is obviously on the man who thinks he's got a clear header to call everybody off of it, right? And for me, I think Skublock was probably best placed to actually deal with that, but that's probably being pretty harsh. It's more, I have an issue with the fact that was such a soft goal, and that regardless of whether or not we're talking about zonal marking or man marking or whatever, it just was not well executed. You need to be in that situation. Definitely, you can't just stand in your zone and let the other team run at you. You need a couple guys farther out. You need a couple guys, maybe a hybrid of a couple of man marking and zonal marking to recognize the threats on the opposition. But no, he was just allowed to run straight in there. It was not great.
I guess it's worth saying to me it's similar as playing out from the back and having a keeper that plays with his feet. It does take time. It's not the easiest thing to do first match out of the box. Like if you wanted to show up and if you had one game to manage these players, he might have gone man marking with slightly different tactics, but there is a will there to there might be some growing pains and we might suffer a bit early on, but there is a vision that he wants this team to
long
play.
term it's going to work. You'd hope.
Yeah, let's hope. So 1-0 after 23rd minute, and then almost immediately after 25th minute, Halifax had the ball in the back of Pacific's net, and it was ruled offside against Garcia. Tough call, but correct call.
Yeah, it was the right one, wasn't it? It was just in niche. It took a long time, I think, for people to realise that it had been disallowed. So the celebrations continued for a good 10 seconds around me until kind of everyone realised, oh shit, it's been disallowed.
So I got about 3 seconds of it in before
Yeah.
you were all too happy to tap me on the shoulder and say, sit back down. We're still going here. Yeah.
There was a poor guy at the table next to us who I don't think he realized for the next 10 minutes. Like, he was grinning ear to ear.
Oh, everybody had sat down and was quiet, and he was still giving it the woo.
Unfortunate. Again, but both sides really sloppy marking on set pieces. Theme through the whole match.
Total theme through the whole match. And I feel like it was Ramprasad who got on the end of a very good delivery from I think it was Karuma that took the corner, but I'm not 100% certain on that. And I thought that Karuma's delivery was on set plays was pretty hit or miss throughout the whole match. But when he did put in a good corner, it was into a pretty dangerous area. He could have a decent dead ball on him.
I couldn't quite find an angle that showed me if that was going in or not.
I couldn't either, and I'm very curious about that.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't really matter. Who was it? That
Garcia.
got the last
I think
touch?
it-
Was
I
it
think it hit
Garcia or
Garcia,
Insah?
yeah.
I wasn't sure who
think
it
it
was.
was Garcia,
Ramprasad did well to win that header and
Yeah.
really was commanding in the box, which I think bodes well. Like, I was kind of hoping that just based on purely on his size, that maybe he might be a bit of a set play threat, and that was a good sign, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Next note I have, there's an interesting passage of play from Zoom, and I've seen him get a lot of plaudits for it. For me, he in that first half was equal parts brilliant and a little bit frustrating. There's one moment where he got really far advanced. He was probably just on the edge of the box, and just took too many touches, went down a bit of a blind alley, and lost the ball, and then had two brilliant recovery tackles on Fisk and another Pacific player. So really one for the highlight reel. Looked amazingly impressive, but yeah, a little bit frustrating that he got caught there. I don't know what you guys think.
I think that Zoom is somebody who's gonna have me smacking my own forehead a lot this season, and I think he's gonna have be somebody who's gonna have me out of my seat.
We said
applauding a whole
that
lot
when we
this
did the
season.
squad
Yeah.
preview, didn't we?
Yeah, I think that you couldn't have really asked for a game that typified what I expect of him more than this one. I thought he was actually excellent, but that running himself into a corner and then recovering to make a spectacular tackle pretty well sums up what I expected from him, to be honest.
He's a very positive player.
So
he drives forward a lot, and so he's I mean, what we said about him before is pretty accurate. I think the thing he's going to do a lot of things wrong, but when he does get it right, it's going to be really, really effective.
Just to give everybody a sense, I'm going to get a little bit statty here for a second.
Here we go.
To give a sense of quite how all over the place Semzilla Langlois was in this game. He was involved in 15 one-on-one duels. The next most in the game for either team was 9. Or sorry, that's 1. He attempted 7 dribbles. The next most for either team was 4. He had more touches than any other Halifax player, and the second most in the entire game.
That's very unusual for a left back to have the most
And
touches on a team.
He had he had 2 more tackles plus interceptions than anybody else in the game as well. He was all over the place.
Did you count these yourself?
No.
Oh, I wish you did. That would have been a fantastic work.
Last real, I guess, moment of note of that first half, 46th minute, right before the whistle, McNaughton caught hauling down Skublock on the halfway line, and a long ball through. Skublock would have been through, but was dragged down, and McNaughton got the yellow. I love this. I saw a tweet once. Whenever you watch Match of the Day or highlight reel or whatever, and they show a highlight of someone getting yellow cards. The equivalent if you watch like a BBC period history drama, and a character gets a cough early on in the show, like they're going to die of tuberculosis. We know what's coming from McNaughton.
One Soccer included that in their highlights as well. That
Exactly. Yeah. Foreshadowing.
Does anybody else think that it might have? I'm not sure that I even think this, but I'm playing devil's advocate for a minute. Does anybody else think there's any shout that could have been a harsh yellow card? Do you think that
first one.
Skublak's getting anywhere near that ball over the top?
Should have been a straight red in my book.
Okay. Yeah, I think it was probably
Yeah,
a yellow, but I was on the refereeing. I don't think there could have really been a more opposite refereeing performance to the first match than what we saw.
He was blowing for all them
He was
niggly little fouls, wasn't
pedantic
he?
as hell, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just after how much was let go in that first game, which we'll talk a little bit about later, is
Yeah.
that's a bit of a concern to me. I mean, I know that each referee referees the game differently, but that was a two polar opposite refereeing.
It's kind of whatever he does in the first 5 minutes, he's got to be consistent for the rest of the game. So I wonder how much of it is he gives a few of them in the first few minutes because he's going to be nervous too. It's the biggest match he's ever refereed. He's probably given the first couple and thinks, oh bloody hell, I've got to give all of them now, and otherwise he looks incredibly inconsistent. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if a bit of that's at play. I think the refs have clearly been told across the league to let stuff go and to be a bit. It's interesting really because David Flanagan, the commissioner of the league, he's obviously told them he wants it to be as rough and physical as possible as a league, but they've also got to appease FIFA and their governing bodies who are not going to want it like that. They're going to want it more in line with the world game. So it's how they manage both of these two different.
I'll be honest and say I kind of think that referees are probably a bit like players in that, for the most part, unless it's from somebody who's really got their respect, that's going in one ear and out the other, and they're going to referee the game. Like they obviously there's some guidelines that they're going to throw down, but I'd be surprised if we see it refereed much differently just because anybody says they want an aggressive league or anything like that.
Yeah.
And I actually think both referees did a fairly good job, apart from one incident that I'm sure that we'll get onto. But yeah, I think that both referees in each game did a fairly good job. It was just surprising to me how differently each of those games were called because it broke up the play quite a lot in this Halifax
And that
match.
added to how scrappy it was as well. I keep going back to what a scrappy game it was, but that did play a part as well. Nerves plus probably a nervous ref as well.
Yeah.
Added up.
And dealing with it's the second match in history to be refereed with the new FIFA rules that'll be coming in place for Premier League and European leagues. I mean, there's a whole lot to think of there, but something else to add to it. I wonder what the new FIFA rule is on smashing someone with your elbow after the ball goes out of play. That's a new
Totally
one. I wasn't
legal
expecting
now.
that.
I'm
Yeah,
sure-
Completely
I love
fine.
it.
Yeah. That about does it for the first half. Referee blew for halftime after that incident.